Hi everyone, this is Shanti signing in with another episode of Shanti Fine Arts. Today I am going to paint some colorful clouds in a sunset landscape. This is going to be the background for my next video tutorial, which is going to be a painting for Earth Day. But we are today going to focus only on the sunset colorful clouds landscape kind of background. And it itself can be a painting. However, I chose this to be a background. Anyways, you can see me that I'm toning down the canvas actually. But what I did is I added some gesso and some different colors before for the toning. And advantage of doing this is that I was working on a fairly cheap canvas which had a lot more tooth than I preferred, and this kind of got rid of some of the tooth and got me a toned background as well, as opposed to working on a white background. So starting with the painting, you can see that I kind of painted a horizon line, which I will paint with darker paint later, but very close to the horizon line I put in some white paint, and then I'm slowly switching onto the yellow colors, and I am working on a crisscross motion constantly with paint, so that as I am putting on paint I am constantly blending it as well to the background. And I'm working completely wet on wet at this point, and that is how you can get very nice smooth blending between the different colors. Once I got up to the midway of this painting, I started adding in a little bit of crimson to my yellows to get some oranges, and a little further up I will add more and more of crimson added with white somewhere between them. And to the top part of the painting I'm adding a lot of blue. So this is cerulean blue mixed with some white, and I'm also adding a little bit of cobalt blue here and there where I want even more intense blues. And to lighten it, I'm just adding a little bit more white to it. The more I move away from the horizon, I will be adding more white and slowly fading into a purple, so that I can kind of get a point where the pink turns to purple and the purple turns to blue. I like this method of switching from yellow to orange to crimson to purple and then to blue, to avoid any unwanted colors in the sky. With this gradual transition, you do not get any unexpected greens or muddy colors. So that is one of the tips I would like to give you for painting any kind of sunsets or colorful clouds or this kind of a background. You can see that as the paint is still wet, I am adding a little bit white here and there to kind of lighten and darken some of the areas, and then I will go back to the bottom of the painting and add some more white to the lower end and slowly fade it out to yellow, so the transition is even more gradual. Doing this in a couple of layers helps me to get an even better blend and a wonderful transition. The next what I'm doing is I am kind of mapping out where I want my clouds to be, and I'm using a crimson paint to map this out and some of the blue paints, but it absolutely does not matter what color you use to draw the mapping, because all of it will be covered with layers of paint that I would apply. One thing I would like to mention at this point is that you will notice that the bottom part of this painting I have kept very simple, almost nothing is there. That is because I am going to paint over this background, or rather I'm going to use this background, this painting as a background. Unlike me, if you're going to paint just the sunset clouds, I would bring the clouds down a little bit so that there is something interesting all over the painting and some of the areas are not too empty as opposed to the other areas. Moving back to the painting, after I map the clouds, I'm putting in some pink clouds here and there, and then I'm going back to my bristle brush and adding a little bit of white around the edges of the cloud. At this point I realized that to work with acrylic paints, this bristle brush was not really working because it was creating too much of brush strokes than I care for. So a little bit later you will see me switch to a softer round brush, which is a synthetic hog hair brush, and that definitely worked a lot better. I have worked on a lot of clouds with this bristle brush, especially when I've worked with oil paints, and previously it has worked all right, but probably because these are acrylic paints, I was having I was getting more paint strokes or brush strokes show through than I cared for with this brush. At times you will see me going over the entire painting, all of the clouds kind of in a rounded strokes with a fluffy brush, and that is my mop brush. You can also use a makeup brush instead of a mop brush because those do not shed as opposed to the mop brushes. You can use any soft bristle brush provided it is white for a mop brush for blending the edges. So from now on till the very end of the painting, you will just see me painting layers on top of layers on top of layers, and the entire purpose of doing this is to get the clouds three-dimensional shape for one. Also, this method gives you a lot of visual interest, and thirdly, it gives you a lot of layers that gives you the illusion of clouds, fluffy clouds. And with each layer of paint you do a lot of color correction, which makes it look more interesting. And sometimes if you by chance end up having a muddy color, you can cover those up. And in this kind of painting, there is plenty of chances that you will end up in some of the areas being more muddy than you care to be. Just keep painting on top of those layers and just keep adding layers till you finally reach to the look where you feel satisfied. It's acrylic paints, it dries fast, so you don't have to wait very long to go for the next layer. And all the layers that you have underneath is just going to give more texture and add to more depth to the painting. So don't worry about it, just keep adding layers on top of layers till you have the right colors or right textures or right look, the look that you are going for. If you are painting clouds, colorful clouds or sunsets for the first time, I would recommend go and find a reference photo for yourself. You can even click on your own photo. You can go up, look into sites like My Reference Photo or Pixabay for royalty-free reference photos, anything for that matter. But once you do a few of those sunset paintings, few of those cloud paintings, then you kind of get a hang of it, and you probably will not need to rely completely on any sunset paintings or any reference photo. But you can also mix and match 2 or 3 different photos and get some clouds from here and some clouds for there and vary it up and mix and match again. So here is where I have switched on to the softer round brush, which is a hog bristle brush, and all the materials that I've used is listed below in the video description, so don't need to worry about that. But if you still have any questions about any materials or any techniques that I'm using, feel free to put that in the comments below. I always try to answer all your questions, and I always love any kind of feedback, positive or negative, any kind of constructive criticism you have for my paintings or my videos in general. So put your thoughts in the comments, feel free to do so. Also, at this point, after I have kind of got whatever color I want in those areas, this is where I add the final little details in the cloud. And with cloud details, what I mean is adding a little bit of lighter areas around the edges, or just adding a little bit of darker areas in some edge areas, just hyping up the contrast in some areas, just creating more and more interest in all over the painting. And like you see that all my colorful clouds are concentrated in the top half of the painting, and like I said, my bottom half is pretty empty because I'm going to paint over this paint over this. So this landscape painting is going to act as a background. If you're just painting this, just bring down the clouds a little bit and create more interest throughout the painting. Or you can even like make it horizontal, and that ways you will have more interest going on throughout the painting. And one more thing I wanted to mention at this point is that I started with a toned background, and one of the reason I paint with a toned background is that in some areas, if the background shows through, it's not white showing through, it has colors already. So even without painting anything, you're adding a layer of depth to it. So that's what is a advantage of having a toned background. And I always like to have a toned background, so whatever medium I'm painting it, apart from watercolors, I always have a toned background. Even with watercolors, I have painted on mixed media paper, and I love the effect of having a toned background. So that is clarified at this point. So for the rest of the painting, I will be cleaning up all the edges, adding more values, adding more details, hyping up the contrast, making blues bluer, adding darker colors right next to warmer colors or lighter colors, creating sharper edges, blending some of the edges. So some edges you want sharp, but some edges you want it blended. That would create a lot of visual elements, a visual contrast, a lot of difference in different areas, and keep the viewer interested. Just by painting beautiful clouds, you can make a very beautiful painting, a landscape painting for that matter. So I think that is something that is valuable, and that is why I broke this painting up into 2 different tutorials and thought that today I would just focus on the clouds and background painting, so that you can kind of see firsthand how many layers of colors I am putting through. And one more thing is that many of you would probably think, what color is she putting in what area? If I don't know that, that wouldn't work out. But like I previously mentioned, the colors really does not matter. You just create layers, values on top of values, and be a little bit careful that the colors that you're mixing or putting one on top of the other do not make mud. Like, look at the color wheel. If you're putting blue in some areas, don't put yellow on top, or if you have to put yellow, put white first and then put yellow, so that you don't get green in the sky. Or if you're putting purple, then don't put yellow on top of purple, because that would make a muddy brown that you probably don't want. So keep in mind those few little color mixing values, and then you can just put any color anywhere. It really doesn't matter. You don't have to follow the exact same pattern. So that is pretty much all about this painting. If you like the painting, please give me a thumbs up. It motivates me like anything, just like your feedbacks or your comments does. So give me a thumbs up. Any feedback, any comments in the comment section. If you can share it with your friends who would appreciate this painting, or maybe who would like to see a painting like this, or would want to paint something like this, share with them. That makes a difference too. And now what I'm doing at the very end of the painting is adding a little bit of clouds at the bottom part, which is pretty much empty. What I'm doing is I am taking some pinks and oranges and putting it a little bit of cloud edges, and the top part of the edges I'm keeping pretty sharp, while the bottom part I'm smudging it out into the background and kind of blending it with the background. And that is all there is to this bottom part of the painting. I will add some more clouds, and that will bring us to the end of the painting. So if you're not already subscribed, consider subscribing, and do not forget to tune in to the next episode, which will be next Friday, for the Earth Day painting on top of this landscape as background. That is all for today, and I will see you in my next video. Thank you.